I was an active officer, you know, I felt like I did a lot of good deed.
One good deed, helping rescue a woman and 2 children from a burning apartment.
It was one of the best feelings in the world. We were given the Medal of Valor by the city of Dayton.
But after Chris Cornwell was involved in his second fatal shooting,
I came home, I looked at my wife and I looked at my kids, and then I told my wife, I go, I don't think I can do this job anymore.
he took me back to the scene of his first deadly encounter when he was a rookie, just 7 months on the job.
This is the apartment building where the incident took place.
The then 27-year-old officer knocked on a drug dealer's door and was met with a gun.
And he's probably about 18 inches away from me, and he shoots me, and the bullet hits me right here in the chest.
He radioed for help, and when he looked into the dimly lit apartment, saw a man with his hand in his pocket turning toward him.
I fired my weapon at him twice, thinking it was the same person that shot me.
He later learned it was not, and the man who shot him had jumped out a third-floor window, aiming for a dumpster right below.
So when he tried to jump out of that window and land into the dumpster, he missed it.
Quickly caught, the man who shot him went to prison for more than 9 years. Cornwell's bulletproof vest had saved his life, but he could not escape the mental trauma.
I started having flashbacks, nightmares.
Fast forward 5 years.
I'm yelling at him, you better stop or you're going to get shot.
Cornwell was on foot when a robbery suspect put his car in reverse with other officers right behind it.
He doesn't comply with me at all. He puts the car in reverse. Unfortunately, I had to shoot him to stop him.
Both times, Cornwell was cleared of wrongdoing, but he still paid an invisible, repeated price.
All these things go through your mind. You play this stuff over multiple times a day in your head. I mean, it just doesn't go away.
We carry firearms to defend ourselves and other people that are in danger of being seriously hurt or killed.
Veteran firearms instructor, Fairborn Police Sergeant Bill Titley, was the SWAT team sniper on a 2016 standoff involving an armed robbery suspect.
And then he turned around and actually pointed what he had in his hands, which was a gun. Once he turned around, I could tell, right at 2 officers who were in the front yard.
Titley made the split-second decision to shoot the man. Even though he believed he'd acted properly, and a grand jury later cleared him, he also found himself replaying his actions.
Where I was worried, gosh, maybe the public, maybe my agency, maybe the team, and maybe the public aren't going to see it the way I did.
Deadly force encounters really exact an enormous toll on officers.
Centerville psychologist Dr. Kathy Platoni counsels officers within hours of a shooting, including the officers from the Oregon District mass shooting. She says an onslaught of physical symptoms is normal.
Profuse sweating, headaches, nausea, vomiting, feeling faint.
The psychological stress, Platoni says, can last much longer.
The despair, the shock, the sadness, the grief, the guilt and self-blame.
Platoni has seen firsthand how having officers talk about the experience is powerful therapy.
Just walking through the entire event as many times as they need to, because the more you talk about it, the less power it has to affect you. It diminishes its power the more you let go of it. It's kind of a download.
Police officers know they cannot keep officers from having to fire their weapons. What they can do, though, is give officers the skills to cope with stressful events before they happen.
That's what was happening on the inside.
Dayton Police Chief Richard Beal remembers what it felt like as a young officer to respond to a call of someone with a gun.
The upper thoracic area and limited breathing.
To control his breathing and awareness, he turned to yoga, a practice he now shares with recruits to help them prepare for potentially lethal situations.
It's so important for public safety personnel, not just police, to have these skills before the crisis occurs.
That every day is different.
Sergeant Titley went back to work after his fatal shooting. He's now recovering from a suspect shooting him in the arm last spring. As for Chris Cornwell,
It was by far one of the hardest choices I've ever made.
he decided to quit the job he loved.
I was just afraid that if I ever got into another situation where I had to use deadly force, that I don't think I could do it again. Shot here in the chest. There's actually...
Today, his bullet-dented vest hangs in the police academy, a stark warning to other officers of what can happen. He and Titley hope telling their stories helps people realize that any officer, shot or not, who has to fire their weapon does not walk away unscathed.
They have to be prepared for that, but then you have to be able to live with the consequence of that enormously weighty decision.